Hey, what's up? So I haven't had a lot of time to put together a video for some of the more complicated ideas I've had recently or time consuming, but rather than go another month without posting, I figured I would do another coffee review slash recommendation video and go over a few things I have on my coffee bar because it was just my birthday a few weeks ago, and again I find myself with a very full coffee bar. And it's a good opportunity. Hey, there's my boy. Hey, like my boy. Anyway, okay, I'll start off with one of my favorites. This is the Anibal Burbano Flor Blanca washed Geisha from Regalia. This is now my second bag of it, which is sort of the ultimate test for me, whether or not it's worth buying again. Regalia tends to be pretty accurate with their tasting notes, and true to form, this one has a really pronounced lemon meringue taste to it that really dominates the cup. My first ever shot of this was immediately surprisingly good. Background notes of vanilla and orange zest. The vanilla is more like a vanilla extract, but you really have to push the cup increasingly into the bitterness category to really get those background tastes to pop. That might sound like a minor criticism, but it isn't. This is an extremely good coffee. Next is this Finca Costa Rica, which is actually a pink Bourbon from Colombia, but this is another big winner from Regalia, I think. It's just about as good as the Anibal Burbano, and maybe at like a slightly cheaper price point. This one is very punchy. It draws a lot of tartness and sweetness, and even its bitterness from this dominant baked peach taste. It's heavy on the brightness, but doesn't go quite into the citrusy direction, which is more the typical acidity you're getting in a lot of these modern coffees. It reminds me of a cross between a Choroso and a Pink Bourbon, actually. It's really extremely good. I'd say Pink Bourbon is probably my favorite varietal overall, even more than Geisha. I think this is the first Pink Bourbon I've ever gotten from Regalia. They're really typically selling a lot of Geishas. About finished with this one. It's the last one from Regalia I'm going to mention. It's the Raquel Lasso. El Bohemia. It's another washed Geisha from them. It's also a great coffee. It's just not quite on the same level as the previous two. Definitely more subtle and tea-like. They say oolong and stone fruit, which is accurate. It's like a softer, more delicate coffee, but it's very good. Next up is another one in the tea-like category for me. This is a watermelon co-ferment from Black and White Roasters. Fruity Flowers from Brayan Alvear. Had a slightly different version of this coffee from Onyx Roasters around Christmas time. This one is a blend of two of Brayan Alvear's coffees. It adds a bit more floral tasting bean and changes the watermelon effect a bit into something that tastes more like watermelon bubblegum, bubblicious I thought, rather than the other one was more like watermelon Japanese fruit drop candy. I'm still trying to make up my mind about co-ferments in general. Don't usually like them, but this one is good. It's simple. I think Brayan Alvear specifically has a good handle on the co-ferment method and never goes too heavy-handed with it. Anyway, it's something a little different if you want to mix it up, but it's still surprisingly neutral and mellow. Next, I've got a couple of bags from a new roaster for me, Moonwake. I'll start with the one I like less. This is a thermal shock Caturra from Wilton Benitez. He does a lot of interesting processes, and his coffees are usually pretty funky, but this one isn't. It's pretty mild, mainly defined by its pink starburst tasting note, which is accurate but pretty subtle, although it perked up quite a lot recently, well beyond their recommended rest period, which is 2 to 3 weeks on the bag for this particular coffee. It's now been over 6 weeks from the roast date, and it's actually gotten noticeably better. Just sweeter and brighter. I would have rated this in the 5 or 6 range until last week or so. The last 3 or 4 extractions have been just noticeably better, so definitely benefited from an overly long rest. The second bag I got from Moonwake was a completely different story. Las Flores, a thermal shock Geisha from Jhoan Vergara. This one was just straight up insanely good. Defined by its grape high chew and rose tasting notes, this really balances in a special, unique way in the cup. You get a very nice and unique sweetness and tartness from that grape taffy type candy flavor, and then the rose as a bitterness offers this like weirdly balancing floral quality. This one it's just a special coffee, I think. I'd note this is from Moonwake's Nova series, which is their more premium tier coffee. The bags are smaller and more expensive than even their other stuff, which is already kind of expensive in the specialty category. This bag is just really well worth it in my opinion, and I'm just going to be monitoring Moonwake's Nova series much more closely in the future because of it. And here's another new roaster for me, Partners. I received these 2 bags as a birthday present, actually. First, I'll mention the one I like less. It's the Ethiopia Secret Process here. It's good, but it's maybe just too funky for me. I'm pretty confident the secret process is yeast inoculation, and it's got that liquor adjacent hops or wine like base layer that sometimes takes over when they do that. The wild cherry and grape notes are there too, but the funkiness make it more of like a tasting experiment for me than a coffee I drink daily for enjoyment. It's not bad by any means though. This other bag from them is just much more my speed, Nuevo Horizonte. It's a Colombian pink Bourbon. This one is pretty tasty. Every time I pull a shot of this, it's a little bit better than I remember. It's on the edge of not being a light roast anymore, so it's pulling a a cross between those brighter fruity flavors and the warmer caramel type flavors that you get more in a medium roast. Raspberry lemonade and caramel on the bag sounds about right for the tasting notes. It's maybe not quite so precise as that, but it can sometimes pick up a little bit of funk if you over extract too much, but it definitely tastes good. It's worthy of a spot on the table, and
It's good enough to keep this roaster in mind for future consideration.
then the last roaster I'll be reviewing is yet another new one, Archetype. Both bags were good, but this first bag, Ethiopia Hamasho, was cheaper and a bigger bag, which I think is worth factoring, as it's just about as good as the more expensive, smaller one. Tropical fruit, strawberry starburst, and floral notes are what's listed on the bag. It's more or less accurate. Again, I think maybe not laser specific. This coffee was somewhat unpredictable. Best extractions were approaching like high 8s, which would be surprising when it would happen. Sometimes I was getting less memorable extractions, like as low 7s maybe. It's definitely a good coffee overall. It was just a bit harder to pinpoint. The other bag was this Sidra Natural.
Jardines del Encanto.
This was definitely the better coffee, but not by a ton, and more expensive for a bag half the size. It was also more consistent. It was in the strawberry orange fruity range for its sweet and sour notes, with a very broad caramel base that stretched across not only the sweet range but also the bitter range. Ultimately, both were strong offerings from Archetype, and I'll be checking their stock for varietals and tasting notes that I like in the future. I've also got a new bag from Say I've yet to try. As usual for me, I get pink Bourbons from them. I think that's what they do best. But it's still too early in the resting phase. I probably won't try this for another week. And I also got a couple of bags from Prodigal Roasters,
Sidra Prime and their milk blend espresso, as well as a couple of my other favorite coffees for cappuccino/latte, Monkey Bite from Bird Rock Roasters, and from Cafe Luso I really like their Gran Marcel de Carmo, and the Finca Florencia from Guatemala, as I'm planning on doing a comparison video for espresso blends in the future. Alright, so that's it for me. See you next time.